Okay, good afternoon. It's just turned 2 o'clock. Welcome to Economy and Infrastructure STC. Item 1 on the agenda is apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Ryland Doyle.
Nobody got anybody else? No? Okay, thanks. And then straight on to disclosures of personal and prejudicial interests. No? Nobody on that as well. Then the minutes of the last meeting. You have all had a copy of them, and it's pages 1 and 2. So I can through them again. Pages 1, page 2. Yeah, everybody happy with them? Thank you very much. Item 4 is local economic delivery plan strategy framework. And Claire's with us today. I wasn't going to introduce you, Claire, because you've been with us before, so everybody knows you. And yeah, if you could, we had the first meeting we had a report from Mr. Phil Holmes about the REDP, which was the regional development plan, which brought in all commands underneath Port Talbot, Pembrokeshire and Swansea, which was a very good report, and obviously we're working from that with a local development plan. Not the local economic, let's not go development plan, that over another can of worms. So yeah, Claire, so it's over to you. And do you want anybody to jump in as we go through, or do you want to finish and then have questions at the end? No, so if anybody's got anything, just stick it hand up. And okay, Claire.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Okay, you got the report. Yeah, we last came to the committee on the 26th of January just to outline the approach that we were going to take. Further work has happened since then, so the report you've got now is the update, and we've reached the point of developing the strategic framework. So as the Chair said, obviously we've got the regional economic delivery plan. This is the local version we're producing now that sits below that. So the report, the beginning is a recap. It just reminds you of what's going to be in there and the timeline for producing it. So obviously following today, we'll take your comments on board from the strategic framework. We're then looking at moving on to preparation of the action plan through the summer, have a draft plan by end of October, and then the final version in November. So, just a reminder really that the evidence-based extensive work was done for the regional plan and also the local wellbeing plan. So we can draw on both of those, and we have for this work. And the strategic context, again, is quite well developed, set by the regional economic delivery plan and other pieces of work. So if I take you straight down to section 3, because this is the new work that we've done that we're bringing to you today. So the regional economic delivery plan has 3 missions. So what we've done locally is with the Regeneration Swansea partnership that I mentioned last time, that's our economic regeneration partnership we're working with on this. We developed 3 local Swansea missions, which reflect the regional. So we've got the structure there and sort of the tree works, and then we've got local versions. So the local Swansea missions we developed in February with the partnership were Mission 1, transition into a net zero economy. Mission 2, building a strong, resilient business and skills base. And Mission 3, growing and promoting Swansea's strengths and experience offer. So that's just a local reflection of the regional missions. We went on then, you'll see in section 3.2, and held a workshop with the Regeneration Partnership in March. And from that, we've delivered a much more detailed set of aims and objectives that link to the missions. So that's what you've got in section 3.2. Apologies, the font is quite small. I'm hoping you can read it. And our purpose of coming today is to ask you really for your feedback on that strategic framework, the 6 aims that we have there. And also we've got the cross-cutting theme of working in partnership locally, regionally and nationally, because I know that when we came in January, that was one thing that came out very clearly from your comments, is the need to give this joined up approach and particularly to support businesses and investors that are interested in Swansea. So that just is cross-cutting through everything that we'll be looking to do. So yeah, would welcome your comments on the framework. Next steps then, as I said, we'll finalise that, draft a narrative that goes around it and move on to developing the action plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Mr. Holmes, have you got anything to add to this?
I think Claire's covered it, Chair. But just to go back to the comment that you made at the start, in terms of the regional picture, you know, this is hand in glove really in terms of working at the regional level. There's so much synergy with it, and I think it's a really good piece of work, something that we can build on for the future. So fully supported by me.
I'm gonna kept it on. Yeah, thanks for that. Has anybody else got any questions or comments? Yeah, Stuart.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is a really good template. I think it's excellent, actually. There are some areas I think it would be interesting to see what happens in the action plan and how we unpack them. I mean, there's in the first section, transitioning to a net zero economy. What I think is really good is where you've said creating local supply chains. I've seen your recent funding is there to try and help people understand the myriad of questions that you need to become a local supplier on sell to well. So I think that's really strong, and anything we can do in the action plan to support that, that's a really good start. And then developing a more circular economy. I think there's real opportunities here. And I know that, for instance, the cabinet members are very keen. I think Councillor Robert Francis Davis is here, and he always talks about the fuel cell and hydrogen and how we're going to move forward there. And I think there's a real opportunity to look at the Kallenberg example of circular economy and how they've got it working in Denmark, so that everybody's waste becomes everyone's supply. And I think that's a really good thing to do. And with the economic sort of direction of travel and also the academic support we've got here, there's real opportunities there. And I think, you know, I've always been a strong advocate of the tourism side of things, and I think there's a good opportunity for us here. And I think one way which would be really good is see the way in which we can link the mission 2, the skills-based mission, and mission 3, the experience that people are going to have. And if there's any way of working with people like Gower College, the higher education institutions, I've always loved to see something which would loosely be like a tourism academy, a way of upskilling and be able to provide labour, and you know, which would add to the experience. And I think that's something that we could look at and see how we could support that.
Yeah. So anybody else? No. Looking at well, the missions that we got for Swansea, it looks to me like the Regeneration Swansea have done quite a lot of the work. It's what now comes out of the missions. I think it will be the next step. Whether we want to meet in between to discuss these 13 highlights of some of them, then, because we wouldn't be able to discuss them all, to see where the next steps go. Not wait for somebody else to make the next steps, and then us just make comments on them. So it would be nice if we got involved in the next steps. So is everybody happy that well, we'll talk with obviously the cabinet member and of course Jeff as well, and then we'll see where we go from there. Okay, nobody online? No, I can't see any hands up. Okay, thanks for that. So that will be our next steps, and then if we need a workshop, then we'll organise one in between. Okay, thanks. And we go on to item 5, which is a report on the workshop that took place on the 4th of July. Paul, you taking this here?
Chair, could I sort of cover it, if that's okay with you?
Certainly.
I know it's Jeff's report. I think Jeff is unavailable or on leave, But I think the report just aims to really capture what was discussed at that workshop back on the 4th of July, and just to sort of get agreement really that they were the sort of main sort of suggestions that came out of the workshop. I wasn't at the workshop, but based on the feedback I've had, I think all of these things were covered in those discussions, and also to recognise that there's probably no need for a second workshop to be arranged, which I know Jeff will be looking at when he's back with us, and that'll be in the next few months. So I think it's just to sort of summarise really what was discussed, get agreement on that, and then agreement that a second workshop will be provided. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Phil. Any comments? Stuart, I had you named him.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, great to see a lot of the ideas that have come forward here, but I just wanted to ask for a little bit of clarification of what was discussed there. In 2.2.9, it talks about St Helens. The first one, which everyone's favourite, is the slip bridge, and I think administrations over a number of years have struggled with the best way forward with there, and I think it might be worth having a look at a bit of innovation and doing something a little bit different with a slip bridge. I have some personal ideas of my own. I think in terms of getting a bridge up onto it, I mean, I know that there's support for that, but DDA compliance might be a big issue there. But I think it would be good for us to have a specific plan for the slip bridge, and maybe an open discussion about how that could be taken forward, because I know that everybody has promised to do something about it previously. Elevated cafe on the sand, I'm not sure what's related to there, but I think there's a node of development that could be looked at around the existing secret area. I think that's worked quite well as an idea. A park and ride, I'm not sure where that would be, except for I suppose by the side of the recreation ground is at the current wing, and multi-level parking and apartments. Again, you know, obviously these are just ideas that have been floated. I'm not too keen on the idea of lots of apartments on the site or any multi-level parking. But I do think there's opportunities for more nodes of development along the Swansea Bay. What strikes me is that you can go from the secret, and it's great that that development came up there, all the way down to the junction, and there really isn't any toilet facilities, changing facilities or anything like that. And I think there's an opportunity to enhance the bay more and to be able to do things there. And, you know, sensitive development is something that I think could be quite suitable on the bay. And I'm more than happy to give some ideas at the next workshop if the chair feels that's more relevant.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. I think yeah, a lot of these ideas came up, and it's a case of maybe the next workshop, a lot of these will be unpacked, and some may drop by the wayside. And a lot of the ideas came from the cabinet member, obviously because he's been involved with this for quite a long time. And it's just how do we move it forward? Obviously, things we've got to look at is like funding. Can we do it as a council, or do we go to the private sector? These are things that we've got to look at as we move forward. Yeah, Will. And then, Robert, I'll bring you in last because you can answer everybody then instead of coming back and forth.
Thanks, Chair. And sorry I wasn't able to make it to the workshop. As you know, it's something that I'm very passionate about, several of these sites. So it's a shame I wasn't able to get there. So apologies for that. With regards to there's two sites which I know that this base strategy was first focused on the sites that we put out to sort of wide range to get opinions from the public some time ago. But you know, two sites I think are missing from here: Mumbles tennis courts, which, you know, something could potentially be improved, because hopefully, you know, the sports and recreation will go back in. But let's have a discussion around that. And you know, the quarry car park in Mumbles. I mean, I personally love to see a multi-story car park in there. You know, which would be great, and that's, you know, on the foreshore, so it'd add a lot of commercial activity to Mumbles if we could get something in there, and I don't think it's something we'd necessarily have to build ourselves. The other thing, obviously, looking at Langland here with the service department sort of comment, I mean, obviously there's a lot to discuss there, but I just want to, make everyone aware of where I am on that, and it's very much a sports and recreational space for the community. And although I'll approach any conversation with an open mind, I would really like to see us keep as much sports and rec as we can on that site. So just to comment on that one, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Will. Robert?
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with Councillor Will Thomas when he talks about the lack of parking in Mumbles, a huge destination, and I think that the development there on the front has attracted a lot of people. I was only there last week, and it was like very continental feel about it. People sitting out on the tables and chairs outside, whereas before there was a road. We've now got good use of it by local people, Swansea people, visitors alike, and I think is what we want to encourage. And I think the Sea Defence Wall now opens up what we want to do with the tennis courts. Do we put tennis courts back? Do we look at some other type of racket sport there? Do we look at a mixture of how do we attract more people there? I think the overall scheme would lose something about 50 parking spaces or thereabouts. I know some have been taken back by putting some car parking on the road, but I think we need officers to have a look at it and come up with a scheme or some consultation locally of what is the best there. But for the quarry, I think if there was a multi-storey car park, they would need feasibility done to make sure that it was economical to do it. Is the footprint big enough to do it? How does that affect the triple SI that on the face of the quarry there? But personally, I would welcome a multi-storey car park if it could fit in and it is economically viable to put into it. So let's look at the overall program for the Sea Defence Wall and what is the best area there to that is in keeping with what Mumbles is. Lovely destination. We don't want to spoil anything. Making sure that the trees are protected, but that people can still access facilities down there. So it might mean the replacement of the tennis courts. Or it might mean something else. Might mean some other sort of physical recreation type development. So I think what Councillor Will Thomas said, I can't disagree with. When it's looking at Langland, I personally think we need to go out and look at a mix there, whether it's hotel, whether it's service departments, new toilet facilities, restaurant, and some sort of perhaps, some sort of spa or whatever is the best of that would come on that side. I think we need to put it out back to the market. There is still a lot of recreational use. We've asset transferred 3 of the tennis courts to the Mumbles Community Council. So there is that recreation put back there. But I think that we need to looking at tourism, how to attract more people to come, people to stay and spend money in the local restaurants and create jobs as well. So I don't think there's any difference in opinion myself really. And Councillor Thomas there, it's a pity you couldn't have been at the workshop, and I understand why you couldn't. But I think what Councillor Will Thomas has said is probably in keeping with my mind on how we develop on those things. So happy for the committee to carry on looking further on that.
Okay, thank you, Robert. I was getting a bit worried there when you and Will Thomas were on the same wavelength.
Well, to be honest, I think as a local member, he wants us the best for Mumbles, and I want the best for Swansea, and I'm sure all of us together, working together with a single cause there is good. And I think commercially minded, I think that we've got to look at what's the best for Mumbles, but overall what's the best for Swansea as well. So I don't think there's a difference of opinion.
No, I think what I was trying to get, if you were on the same wavelength as Will Thomas and the same wavelength as you, it's got to be right. Will?
Yeah, thanks for letting me back in, Chair. Obviously, the devil's in the detail on stuff like this, so let's see if we're still agreeing in a few months' time. But yeah, just on that, then, I'm just wondering if the cabinet member would agree to the sort of quarry site and Mumbles tennis courts being added to this sort of list in the workshop of so that we can obviously have a discussion about that and have Phil and his team look into those things as well, please.
Yeah, well,
I'm more than happy there, Chair. And I think on the quarry, it all depends the feasibility, looking at the environment of it, looking at the triple SI. But I think we got to look at, there is a need for parking down in Mumbles. It's a big tourist attraction. People need to get there. Not everybody can get there on bicycle or walking. And so therefore, we need to look at something that is there and would probably be quite discreet a car park in the quarry.
yeah, okay. We're happy with that then, Will. Wendy?
Thanks, Chair. Would it not be prudent for this committee to have a site visit to Langland to see what we are considering and looking at? And I think it would be beneficial to this committee and the officers.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, Wen. It's very good suggestion. And maybe if we start early in the morning, we could stop down by Mumbles and have a look around the car park there, the tennis courts, and then move on to Langland because it's in the same area. So shall I look into that? You all happy with that?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I'll make some sandwiches up, Chair.
I know it's been said we're having Bitcoin sandwiches. Yeah, Mike?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yes, to follow on there from the cabinet member. Yeah, as I say, with what's going on in Mumbles and what the council are doing to enhance our areas, as cabinet member said about the seawall and everything, to promote the village as well. But with the quarry car park, yeah, there would be things that we would have to sort of look into. Phil would be more on top of this for us because of issues with perhaps access in and out there, and because it's on a quarry site. But it would be very interesting to perhaps we could, as you said, have a look there. But we can sort of get a flavour of then what perhaps the option we could look at it as a committee and take to officers. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks for that, Mike. Anybody else? Nobody on? Yeah, so there we are. We'll arrange another workshop, but in the meantime, I don't know where I'm going to go to get to have okay on this site visit, but we'll have a site visit before, obviously, the workshop to see what we'll be talking about next time. So everybody happy with that? Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot. And then finally, we've got the work plan. We got September. We've got destination management. There's nothing down for October. I don't know why. Unless I've got a different one.
6 weekly, Chair.
Oh, 6 weekly. So Claire, when would you come back? Would you come back in the September one or the November one? Would November suit you better?
Yeah, I think November would be good, Chair.
There we are. Okay. So we'll have, well, it'll be the same sort of agenda as today then. Okay, and we're happy with that. And then we go on to road infrastructure. Oh no, on December we got housing allocation policy, maintenance roads, more homes, and then back to the Tower River Corridor Action Plan. Okay, we're all happy with that. Okay. Nobody else wants to say anything?
On the
Okay.
Tower River Corridor Action Plan, when is that due to come?
Well, we've got it down as April next year.
Because I'm very conscious of the money we've had for levelling up. It's the river corridor is part of that. by the time it goes in April, by the time you then discuss it and come back, you know, the time that the money has got to be spent in a timely fashion. Perhaps I could take, you know, I don't know, Mark Wade, but would next April be too late for a committee to be looking at that?
Yeah, I quite agree with that, Robert. We look at bringing that forward. We'll talk to the officers concerned and yourself, and then we will try and slip that in earlier, because we did have one report on levelling up.
I'm just thinking, listen to Robert saying that now, wouldn't it be better if we knew these things needed to be done as a committee before? Like, we were not going to do that till April, and if he wasn't on the screen, we would know that we needed to do it before. Am I making sense?
Yeah. But this is why when we meet with when I meet with the cabinet member, all this then would come out and we say, well, there should be another one in there. Or Paul helped me say there should be another one in there for you to, because we had a meeting about the levelling up a couple of months ago. So we've had that meeting. It's just it's the follow up, I think, should have been put in between there to see where we go. Right, I got Mark Wade first, and then Phil Holmes.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to confirm, Rob Francis Davis's point, yes, certainly, you know, happy to amend the work plan with you on that, Chair, and sort of move some of the items around, subject to perhaps other cabinet members' agreement around priority, but certainly some flexibility around that. But I think maybe it's just the I won't preempt what Phil Holmes is going to say, but that previous reference to the levelling up monies, perhaps the terminology around the river corridor has misled the committee in some way, but certainly there was reference to that in an earlier session. So Phil, I don't know if you wanted to comment on that particular point, following on from what I've just said.
Yeah, exactly that. The levelling up stuff has been here, it's been approved, it's underway, it's under delivery. So that is not time critical. I think this item is more the sort of general master planning, the wider sort of master planning, the action plan that goes with it. So it's over and above the levelling up stuff, really. So linking in with Urban Splash and other partners as we move forward. So I don't think it's as time critical as perhaps initially thought. But if it can be brought forward, then Gail and Paul can advise on the best time for that.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that, both of you. Robert.
Yeah. Look, if it's not time critical, I'm happy for it to stay in April. But what I didn't want, and I think I was ill when you had the levelling up one, and so therefore not aware of what the content of that. And I didn't want it delayed because of the money got to be spent. But if it's not time critical, I don't want to take officers away working on this when the delivery process is probably more urgent than looking at that river corridor bit that can wait and for when Urban Splash have more to come forward with and fitting into the destination that Gail is working on. So forget my earlier remarks.
Thank you, Robert. No, it is quite important, because if the levelling up money gets spent on certain projects, then we will be looking at what should we do outside these projects that will enhance the river corridor. I think that's what we should be looking at, not looking at what the levelling up is going to do, because otherwise scrutiny may be shouting about that then. Yeah, Paul.
Just to reassure, Chair, the content of the bid is very much infrastructure everybody's already aware of, and stuff that wouldn't change per se. So it's as the others have said, the wider master planning is more the subject of April, and Urban Splash probably by January, February would have some draft plans to start looking at, but that's not ready yet either. So we've deliberately kept the programme to things that are essential for the sites that aren't debatable, and the master plan would be future activities then for further funding in future.
Okay, thank you, Paul. And more than likely that's why it's in April. Yeah, okay, anybody else? No? can I thank you all for attending? And we seem to be moving forward. Okay, thank you very much.